Is working. I am trying a new way to broadcast across there we go. To broadcast across multiple channels at once. And if it works well, I will share it with you so then you guys can do the same thing across your multiple platforms, groups, whatever it may be. So in today's daily lesson, right? And so if you're in the members group right now, as you guys know, every day we do a lesson. I am streaming this in the non-members group for gym owners because I thought it would be a really cool lesson for any gym owner, right? And so I talk with a lot of new gym owners on a pretty regular basis, meaning every single day, right? And so a lot of them come in with different goals in mind, or asking questions about different things that are working well for certain gym owners, right? And we have the luxury of being able to look at things from a zoomed out point of view and saying, all right, what is working well for like the top 1% of gym owners across the industry. Let's just do those things. Those are best practices, right? And so the strategies and the tactics, right, the execution that we're doing at our gym is largely dependent upon the level of which your gym is at, right? And so things that might be working really well for certain gym owners may not work well for you based on your ability to, number one, execute that thing, or number two, it really depends on where you're at in the life cycle of being a gym owner, right? And so I wanted to break this down into some easier to digest levels that make it, make it easier to understand where you're at now and where you ultimately could be depending upon your goals. And here's the thing, there's no right or wrong answer, right? And so just because you are at a level 1 gym owner or a level 2 or whatever it may be, doesn't mean that you need to ascend to a higher level, right? It only depends upon your goals, right? And I think it makes more sense to at least understand what those levels are, so then you can decide if that makes sense for you in the current season or chapter of your life that you're in right now, if it makes sense for you to ascend to that level. So let me first just kind of break it down. And guys, this isn't like something that is like written out in a book or anything. This is just the way that I think about the levels that I went through as a gym owner and what I think applies to the majority of us just after having a lot of these conversations, right? And so level 1, guys, this is your self-employed coach, right? And I remember this level, it was a lot of fun. It's when you open your business, right? And so when you have your first location of your gym, it's usually pretty small. Mine was only about 1,500 square feet, and I was wearing all the hats, guys. I was the coach, I was a salesman, I was the admin, it did it all. I had no employees, right? And so if somebody was interested in the business, they'd be talking to me. I'd be explaining to them, how I can help them reach their goals, and then I would be coaching them, right, through the whole process. And in this level, you're kind of exchanging your time for money, right? That's basically how it works. At least you don't have a boss. At least you don't have to be somewhere at it. Well, you kind of do. It's like your customers, right? Your customers are your boss because they dictate your schedule, right? When they come in and when they're able to come in is when you need to come in, right? So you don't have a manager, right? Or you're not working for the owner of another business, but you still have to abide by what your clients require, which gives you less freedom than some of the other levels, right? And when you are full of clients, let's say 20 to 30 clients, if you're doing personal training, group training, semi-private, whatever, your freedom's pretty much gone, right? You're getting there early in the morning, 5:30 a.m. At least this was for me, right? About 5:30 a.m. I would train until like 9:30, 10:30. I would take a 2 or 3 hour lunch break, maybe go home if I lived close enough, and then come back and do it in the evening, right? And I would continue to do that. And maybe I could make a decent buck. And I think that in previous, if you search the group for levels of gym ownership, I would say that you can probably make about $60,000 a year doing this. But to keep it up and to keep it consistent, you're looking at 80 hours a week, right? And that's to keep it consistent. Probably about 40 to 50 of training hours, right? And then, 20 to 30 hours of like working on the business, replying to emails, customers, processing contracts, administrative stuff, figuring out marketing things and all of the stuff. And it doesn't mean you're at the gym, but you're still working. You're still thinking about work and doing work related shit, right? And so, totally, in totality, you'd be working about 80 hours a week on the business and making about 60 grand a year in take home money, right? At level one. Some people don't want to do that. Some people want way less work. Now, for me, when I first started, I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. I was like, sign me up. Let's fucking go. Like, I'm ready to train. I'm ready to get after it. Okay. But then things changed. My life changed, right? And so, because my life changed, I needed my business to change because I always wanted my business to serve me or just have it cease to exist, right? I'm not interested in owning a business that doesn't serve me and I'm just like an employee of it, right? And so I had to change to a level 2 gym owner. And this was when I recruited some help. Now, for most gym owners, it is going to be in the form of coaches, people that can take the fulfillment off of your plate of these services that we are selling, because the other stuff is way harder to delegate. Sales, way harder to delegate. Operations or administrative stuff and systems and processing and billing and credit cards and all of that stuff, a lot harder to delegate. It's usually easier to be like, hey, do you know how to coach? Okay, awesome. Do you want to take these classes? Do you want to take these clients? Right? And you'll offload some of the peak hours to your new coaches, right? So that way you can do important things like sell or do family things during like dinner at important times, which for me didn't come till level 3. But it allowed you a little bit more time. But now your payroll goes up, right? And so let's say you were at a 40% profit margin in level 1 because you just had no employees, right? Maybe now you're at a 20 or a 30% profit margin because you have to pay out some coaches, right? So you're making less profit percentage wise, but because you have extra time, you should increase your revenue via sales, and your absolute return per year should bring you in more profit. Now, maybe because you're not training everybody, I would still bet that your take home's around 60K. So why make the trade-off? Well, because you have more hours now. Let's say you have 60K in your pocket, but now you're only working 60 hours a week on the business because you have some help. Right? If that sounds kind of like you, I would consider you to be a level 2 gym owner. Right? Now we have level 3 gym owners, right? And this is where you are largely the manager, right? You are a general manager of a gym. Now you still own it, right? Your name's on it, but you are running the show, right? So you, at this level, you might have a sales manager, because you've delegated sales. You have coaches and you're not doing any more coaching, maybe just a, oh shit, I gotta jump in and help out type of coach. But for the most part, you don't have scheduled classes or clients. You probably have some kind of an admin, whether you call it like an ops manager, a GM, an admin, similar behind the scenes type of work, right? Doing administrative type of stuff, right? You're paying out for all of these things and you're managing the players. You might still be doing sales at this level, you might not, right? But largely, you are the one that is there all the time and dealing with all the non-fulfillment type of stuff. Okay, so payroll again increases, okay, because you have to pay this stuff out, but you are getting your time back. And what you use your time for, right, should give you a higher absolute return. Profit margins dip at level 3. Now we're down to about 20% profit margins, right? But the absolute return, because you are selling more memberships, meaning and hopefully losing less people, your revenue is increasing, right? So because your revenue increases, even with a lower percentage of net profit, your absolute return is still, around $60,000 per year. Why make the trade-off, guys? Because now we're gaining 20 hours back again, right? So now we're making 40,000 to 60,000, somewhere in that range. No, I'd say 60 to 80 at this level, 60 to 80, somewhere in that range if we're lucky, right? But now we're only working 40 hours a week, right? So we're buying back our time. Okay? Now you're not doing the same kind of work that you did when you first opened the business. You're doing much more of leadership, management, organizational strategy type of stuff versus just coaching clients and making sales, right? but you are willing to now, guys, at any point you can say, hey, I don't want to ascend to that level. I like where I'm at. I like doing this, right? There's no right or wrong answer, right? Just because you can stop coaching doesn't mean you should. It doesn't mean you're going to be a happier person, right? I usually recommend to my clients to delegate the things that you dislike doing the most, and to delegate the things that you know you are not good at the most, right? And keep the things that you like doing or you're good at doing. Usually that's kind of what I recommend. Okay, so now we're at level 4. Now level 4, this is a big jump from 3 to 4, because this is where you step away from the business a lot, right? And so for a level 4 gym owner, this is where you would hire on that GM. Okay, you'd bring on one more person that kind of oversees the business. And so at this level, you'd probably be working about 4 hours a week. At least for me, this is how you got to that 4 hour work week of owning a gym, but not doing any of the tactical executing of the day-to-day operations. Okay, so what would you be doing at this level? Well, you hired on this GM that is replacing you with the management of the employees, right? And so you are still responsible for making sure the leaders in your business understand the vision, understand the strategy, developing a strategic plan, and helping them execute it. So what my days look like when I was a level 4 gym owner was, on Mondays, I would meet with my team, right? My leadership team, right? So that would be a sales manager or whoever's doing the selling, right? The operations manager. You can call it a GM, you can call it an ops manager, you can call it whatever you want. Usually not the best person to actually make the sales. You want a really good salesperson in there. And then number 3 would be like your head coach. So they'd be the one responsible for like the trainers, the programming, making sure, classes are covered, that kind of stuff. Okay. And so those would be like your main 3 people, right? So what I did was my job was, I went from being a player on the team, tactically doing these different roles, to being a coach, right? And so now if you want to win a championship, right, this year, you need to have great players and a great coach, right? That's just how championship teams end up winning it all, is you need both, right? And so I needed to step in and really learn how I could get the most out of every player. Number one, make sure they're in the right position, right? You can't have a coach selling if they're horrible at selling just because they want more hours, right? Or admin or whatever it may be. But I had to make sure that I could always level them up, right? That's what a great coach does. So I meet with the entire leadership team on Mondays, and we talk about strategy. We talk about lead flow. We talk about these things and what are the things that we could do by next week's meeting to stay in momentum and to get us closer to that championship. What does it look like to win the championship? What are our goals, guys? What are our yearly goals? 12-month, then quarterly, then monthly, then weekly. Now, who's responsible for doing what? I call this a strategic plan, right? And so this strategic plan really takes the vision and puts it down into tactical items that we can execute on a week-to-week basis, and then identifies who's in charge of owning and making sure those things happen, right? That would be what we would do on Mondays, every Monday. Then on Tuesdays, I'd work with the salesperson on how to sharpen their skills, right? Sharpen their beliefs, get them to be able to close more frequently at higher ticket prices, right? Then on Wednesdays, I would work with my operator, right? And this would be the person that is kind of running the whole show behind the scenes, organizing member events and challenges, and working with the coaches, working with the trainers, making sure everything's getting done, making sure that the spreadsheets and all of the KPIs are being met, all of the stuff behind the scenes. Then on Thursdays, I would work with the head coach, making sure that each one of the coaches are fulfilling their role at the highest level. We would do things like career roadmaps to make sure that they are aligned with what they want out of this job and what we're actually giving them out of this job. That way we don't have this high turnover with unsatisfied employees and we just never asked, right? And so those are the kind of meetings I would have, and we do it every week. I was in this role for about 2 years at the level 4 gym owner, right? And so I really worked with these guys and really, in my opinion, turned them into great leaders that really knew their role and how to win at their role, and then what it looked like to win and what they got. Right. So what would they get in exchange for going above and beyond? We would do performance-based incentives and all that. We still do, right? So that would be like your level 4, where it's a 4-hour work week for the owner. Then finally, there's level 5. And so that's currently where I'm at, and it's completely passive. So I've stepped away from the business. I've stepped away from the gym. I am not involved in the strategy. I am not involved in the execution. I'm not involved with any of it at all, right? It is simply an investment that I will that I make now passive income from it, from the 10 years that it took me to get to this level. And now I just spend all day working with gym owners, right? I will still use my gym to test things out, to make sure everything's anything new that's in the pipeline is thoroughly effective before I roll it out to other gym owners. But it is very much more of a passive business for me now, which again, I would only recommend getting to that level if you have a plan on what you want to do with your time when you achieve this level. Otherwise, you will be bored as shit if you're anything like me. It will not be happier, because you will just be looking to solve problems that are not in front of you. Anyway, in the team now, they do not need my help. They are growing, not just maintaining, cruising altitude. They are growing without me, right? And it is because they know what the mission is, and they know how to execute the mission, and they know what they get when they're successful. And if you have the right people in place and the right processes in place, those two things, they don't need you, right? They just needed to get all of that set up. It took me 10 years. It's taken the gym owners that I help much less than that, because there is a roadmap. I was in uncharted territory all the time because no one was teaching this shit, right? They were teaching how to get leads and things like that, but not really how to grow this business. And so it took me a little bit of time, but there's no right or wrong answer. It really depends what you want out of your business. And so I thought I would share that with you guys today. I thought it would be useful. And hopefully you can identify which level you see yourself when you wake up in the morning and say, man, I love this fucking business. This is exactly what I wanted. What level is that for you, right? And then set your goals and your strategy based on that, and work your way backwards. Don't just start doing what other gym owners are doing. They might have a completely different path they're following based on their destination, right? And we should always follow the path that makes the most sense based on where we're going. So thank you guys for taking the time to join in today. I'm gonna end this, and then tomorrow, for members only, I probably will not be streaming in the low stress high profit group every day. That's a lot of stuff. But for members, we're going to be back on for the daily lesson, and we're going to be talking about lead generation, specifically the new 75-day summer shred campaign to get your gym packed with people looking to do these 75-day transformation programs. So I will see you guys there. We're out of here.